ओम जयति जगति मायां यस्य कायाधवस्ते वचन रचनमेकं केवलं चाकलय ध्रुवपदमपि यातो यत्कृपातो ध्रुवोऽयं सकलकुशलपात्रं ब्रह्मपुत्रं नतोऽस्मि. You are seeing the shloka on the screen. Later on, I asked the administrator to include it in the video. Let me explain this Mangala Charan first. It is from Padma Puran and it is being said in praise of Narada, the Guru here. Prahlada's mother's name was Kayadhu. So Prahlada's name is Kayadho. We are remembering and chanting Narada as the guide of Prahlad and Dhruva. So Prahlada's name is Kayadhava. In this world, Jagati, Mam Jayati, he wins over Maya. Prahlada wins over Maya. Vachana Rachanam means Cha Akalaya. Absorbing. One sentence from you. Prahlada won over Maya in and Dhruva obtained the Dhruvapada, the place of constancy, and whose grace that you, Narada is supposed to be the son of Brahma. Sakala Kushala Patram, the recipient of all virtues. Nato Asmi, you will find me bowed down to him. There is a difference between I bow down. I bow down has a little amount of ego there. But I have bowed down. I have been forced. My head is bended down already. Now let me explain the two stories. Prahlada was the son of Hiranyakashipu, an enemy of God, himself to be God. But his wife was extremely devoted. And during her pregnancy, Narada every day and used to tell her about God. Now from that one sentence, we may suppose one sentence is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya or whatever it may be. One sentence. Prahlada heard while still in the womb. So when the Prahlada was born, when he came out, he was both a perfect Jnani and a perfect Bhakta. This is Prahlada's story. Dhruva had a different background. Dhruva's father, named Uttanapad, a man of high position, you may say. Very significant names are there. He had two wives. Right conduct or morality. And the younger one was Suruchi, good taste. And he was more attached to Suruchi because of his good taste. And used to neglect Suniti in a way. Dhruva means constancy. And Suruchi's son was Uttam. Sitting on the lap of his father, Uttanapad. So he thought he can also father's lap. And the father did not object, he welcomed him. his stepmother, Suruchi, saw that. She pulled him out from there. And you have no right there. If you wanted to sit on your father's lap, you have to be born from me. No, he was a small boy. It hurt him so much. So he told his father, I thought, I want to earn such a place, not my father's lap. I want to earn such a place from where nobody can displace me. With this resolve in mind, he started going to the forest. But Narada got a compassion on him because of his character. And Narada came and met him before he entered the forest and said, my boy, what are you doing? He said, I am want to do tapasya, by which I will attain a place where nobody can disturb me. Narada told, my boy, there is no such place in the world. If you want to attain such a place, the only place is you have to realize God. It is only God who is not changing. And if you reach Him, you will never change. So Narada gave a direction to Dhruva. Narada taught Prahlad when he was in the womb. Narada gave direction to Dhruva and he gave him a mantra. So by that mantra and by Narada's grace, Dhruva also attained that place where nobody can change him. These are the stories. And therefore, we revere Narada, or we are being guided by Narada, as he has been a sure shot guru of both ideal devotees, Prahlad and Dhruva. So, that is how. Now, let me frankly admit, I have not read Padma Puran. But Swami Tyagishananji had a book on Narad Bhakti Sutras. So the book is not liked by me. A lot of digression was there. But in that book, I found this shloka, and I found it is the best shloka for Narada, and I adopted it. Now, let me tell you something. As a preface to this series of lectures, or it was actually a preface to the book which is in, many people asked me and I will send them. Sri Ramakrishna used to say again and again, Narada Bhakti is the best in this Kali Yuga. Again and again used to tell this. Now at this point, let me point out something different. I will not take any name. But there are great authorities who opine that Sri Ramakrishna never meant this Narada Bhakti Sutras. There is another book in the name of Narada, Narada Pancharatra. And there Narada is teaching the ordinary devotees, jump and dance and sing in God's name. That Narada Pancharatra Sri Ramakrishna is referring is the opinion of great people. And I don't want to express any opinion about this. I pointed out, because later on you should not say that you did not know this. Now, the Narada Bhakti Sutras which we have, there are special features in him which correspond to every idea of Sri Ramakrishna. Whether Sri Ramakrishna meant this or not, if we go philosophically, we'll find, yes, he meant this. What are the specialities of Narada Bhakti Sutra? Firstly, it is based upon harmony. Sri Ramakrishna said, as many faiths, so many paths. Narada also here points out various paths, various forms of bhakti. So it is harmonious and comprehensive. So many things are included. Now, another important feature of Narada Bhakti is it is not made by any man's mind or intellect. It is not according to what man thinks. It is derived from the very nature of God. Narada Bhakti is derived from the nature of God, not from man's mind or man's intellect. This is the great difference between Narada Bhakti and any other Bhakti in the world. And Narada is harmonious. He has taken the name of so many acharyas in the 83rd Sutra. And he is telling, I am speaking on behalf of all of them. And when they talk, Narada says, there is no difference between them, no disagreement between them. So Narada does not find any disagreement between the real acharyas of bhakti. And so we have adopted this because it is exactly according to Sri Krishna's ideas. Now, because it is in English and sutra form, but Narada Sutras are not like the previous sutras which we read. A lot of things used to be assumed, we have to derive from here and there. Narada Sutra, what is the meaning of a sutra? Don't think sutra means abridged form, short form, no. Sutra means direct, representative, indicative of God's nature and our bhakti. Sutrita, that which is indicating God's nature and how our bhakti should be guided is called sutras. But it is in English. So we have to explain it in English, it is in Sanskrit. Now, those who are interested, to them I am telling. This fellow, Pitambarananda, has written a big book, 120 pages, explaining every sutra of Narada. But from that, the book is not yet published, it is in my computer. But many people know it. Hundreds of people have got it already. From that very book, this has been extracted, only the translation part of it. Now, another important thing about this book are Pitambaranda's effort. Narada himself has not divided his sutras into any chapters or sections. They are simply 1, 2, 3, 84. And so every editor has done it according to his own mind. Now this fellow, Pitambarananda, by the grace of his guru, could go deep and understand the connection between every sutra and the topics thereof. So this division into chapters and sections is by Pitambarananda. And that is, I think, a very important part of this treatise. Now, with this preface and through this division, I have been able to present, I feel, what Narada wants to say. No interpretation, no what my mind thinks like this or like this. What Narada wants to say, that itself has come out here. Now, when the listeners go through this, they will understand the usefulness of Narada in our spiritual life. And Narada has declared at the end, by the help of this Narada's treatise, everybody will be able to nischinta, without any worry in the life. Life has always worries, but the sadhak will become free of worries. And Narada tells 2 steps. This bhakti is not, sometimes we feel we are doing bhakti. This bhakti is not to be done. This bhakti has to be achieved by changes in our life. So, by the deep inculcation of Narada Bhakti Sutras, the meaning thereof, first step is we will achieve bhakti, real bhakti. And when we achieve real bhakti, it is bound to give us the fruits of bhakti, which Narada declares in a wonderful way, sapreshtham labhate. Generally, we find a difference between what we like and what we want, what we actually the goal of life. But here Narada says, what you can like, the best of what you can like is itself the goal of life. What you love is God only, you have to understand that. And this God of love, or love which is God, or God which is love, you are sure to achieve by the study of this Narada Bhakti Sutra. This is Narada's description, and so now we introduce these sutras. This was, I would say, the preface. Now, in the introduction, the most important thing is that real bhakti. Mind you, another thing, Narada has not given any name to his bhakti. People, according to their khayal, they have called it para bhakti or this or that. Narada has not given any name. But his bhakti is the real bhakti, we may say. And all the bhaktis which we possess, all the bhaktis which we possess, Narada says they are Gauni bhaktis. In a secondary sense, I accept their bhaktis. And later on, from Sutra 56 onward, he will take up those bhaktis and tell us how we can turn these bhaktis into the real bhakti. So he's comprehensive, he's not going to leave anybody. But what he says in the beginning is that keep aside your ideas of bhakti. Don't mix up your ideas of bhakti with what I am telling you. Then only you can absorb what I am trying to tell. So, and with this real bhakti, not only Dhruva and Prahlad, but thousands of people have attained bhakti and God, and that we want to learn from Narada. And for that, as I have told you, Narada is asking us one thing. Keep aside your ideas of bhakti. Don't mix up. Listen to me. And he will describe the real bhakti right up to the achievement. And then he will say, now let us examine your bhaktis. And he has classified and categorized and found out what are the good points there and how from that bhakti you can come to real bhakti and God. So now the next point is, as we have always been talking, to study any spiritual scripture, we must think of four things minimum. Here, let me tell you one more thing. While discussing Patanjali Sutras, we have to so many times differ from him or this or that and find what is in the Vedantic light. Narada Bhakti Sutras are pure Vedanta in a Bhakti form. Not any iota of difference. But the form given is Bhakti. Now I'll explain when the proper time comes what is the difference between Jnana and Bhakti and what is not the difference between, as Sri Ramakrishna says, pure knowledge and pure devotion. If you want, let me discuss that point now. It is a famous saying of Sri Ramakrishna that pure knowledge and pure devotion are same. He tells us that there is something called impure knowledge. And this also tells us there is something called impure bhakti. So let us first understand what is knowledge. I've been telling repeatedly in previous classes, knowledge is not information, knowledge is not intellectual conviction, knowledge is the change of consciousness. Now we are going purely according to the Vedantic truth. We need not think of anything else. What is our knowledge at present? I told you, not information. Generally, we translate it as I thought, we think, we feel. They are very secondary words. I know. I'll give an example. Now I'm seeing you people there. I am seeing you people. I know that I am seeing you people. Can you understand the difference? If I close my eyes or if I stop the computer, I will not see you people, but I will know that I am not seeing you people. Find out the difference. Now, instead of me, somebody else sees some other experience, but he knows that he is experiencing. Now, instead of seeing, I am hearing something. I know that I am hearing. This knowledge, basic knowledge, what else, what other word can be used? Knowledge. In English, sometimes we say consciousness, awareness. What is our basic knowledge? I am a jiva, living in this world of objects. Find out whether this is our knowledge or not. Every one of us. Whether we enjoy the objects of the world, whether we turn away from them, we want to search for God and we want to realize God. Who wants to realize God? A jiva. It's a very important starting point of our life. I remember when I studied, when I was taught Shvetashvatara Upanishad, there the Rishi is telling, you must come to this point, then only spiritual life starts. Normally, I am the body, I am the mind, I am the I consciousness. How can it be when they are changing every moment? So my knowledge, my present consciousness, I am a jiva in this world of objects, is wrong. We do not require Vedanta. We do not require Shankaracharya. We do not require Ramakrishna to understand that this knowledge is false. On two grounds. First is continuously changing. If I am the body, what is continuously changing? If I am the mind, mind is continuously changing. How can that be I? I remember one incident I think I shared with you. I was in Patna Ashram, anywhere I could have been. One old man was coming with a small girl, baby girl. My mind told me, this baby girl also has eye consciousness. When she becomes old, what will be their eye consciousness? No relation between a child's eye consciousness and the old man's eye consciousness. But we feel we are the same. Our feeling of same is a myth. So, body, indriyas, mind, eye consciousness all change from moment to moment. Because our mind changes with that, we do not understand the change. If you ask a man who is seeing you every day, he will not find any change. But somebody sees you after some years, he will find change. This is one point. Another funny point about this eye of ours is that we are shifting continuously. Now I am the body. When you say my body, you are not the body. Just like my house, my book, it is my body. Now you are the indriyas. Now you are the mind. Now you are the eye consciousness. So our eye changes every moment is one thing. Our eye shifts continuously from this to that, that. How can we take it to be real eye? How can? So the falsity of this eye of today, the falsity of our perception that I am a subject living in the world of objects is known, not necessary Vedanta or Shankaracharya or Sri Ramakrishna for that. But there is a third thing, and that we require Vedanta or Sri Ramakrishna. See the Rishi's knowledge. See Sri Ramakrishna's knowledge. See Shankaracharya's knowledge. Anyone's knowledge who is fulfilled We have to refer to 13th chapter of the Gita. There, Bhagavan says, I am the only consciousness throughout the world. Whatever we feel, I, not only body, mind, Ichha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham, Sangatas, Chetana, Dhriti, Etat Kshetram Samasena Savikaram Udaritam. Bhagavan compares it to a field, a farm given to the farmer. Because we do karma and reap fruits from it. So it is compared to a farm. Ichha, Dvesha, Sukha, Dukkha, Sangata, this combination, and this I consciousness, which is a result of this combination, and Dhruti, what Patanjali said, Abhinivesh, that is Dhruti, not ordinary tenacity, unwilling to give the body. All this is, Bhagavan says, farm. And who is the farmer? Who knows this farm? Bhagavan says, I alone know this farm. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharat. In all the fields, I am the knower. This is Vedanta. This is pure truth. All our eyes are false, totally. Now, how do we say theirs is right and ours is wrong? See the result. What has this I consciousness given us? Right from the topmost man to the lowest man? Misery, ashanti, dissatisfaction, restlessness, even to the extent of committing mistakes. And what their knowledge has given? Fulfillment, peace forever, bliss forever, perfection. So from that point of view, their knowledge is truth, our knowledge is false. So I've given you three reasons. Our I changing, so false. Our I shifting, so false. And in comparison to the knowledge of the rishis or brahmajnas or avatars, who find only one consciousness, no matter I, you, and he, she, it, this very one I consciousness in different set of body and mind, what is called psychosomatic personality, is telling I. I am a man, I am a woman, I am this, I am that. Bhagavan himself, through different bodies and minds, says I. That is the knowledge of the rishis. So, now what is knowledge? Path of knowledge. When Sri Ramakrishna many times talks about jnanis, he does not talk about Brahmajna every time, please remember. Otherwise, you will be mistaken. A mode of mind, which is called the jnani's mind. What is this mode of mind? Analytical by nature, finding the world is changing by the analysis, finding that the world does not exist by the analysis, finding that the world appears real because there is a reality at the back. Now, if this much is the knowledge, we either call it Ashuddha Jnana or half knowledge. But I have told you the mode which is called knowledge, Jnana. When it is pure knowledge, this reality at the back itself appears as different things of this world. Transcendent, immanent reality, one without a second. Not only transcendent, immanent reality, meaning God is beyond all and God is all in appearance. in Leela we say, in his play. He is all the subjects, he is all the objects. Some people think wrongly that God is not an object, he is the subject. I said, no, God is the reality of the subject. And at the same time, reality of all objects. In God, there is no break between a subject and object. No break between the genders in God. It is Maya we say when we see break of genders. Anyway, so when we can realize that world is false, there is a reality at the back, and this very reality appears as this world through names and forms, then it is called Shuddha Jnana. Otherwise, how many types of knowledges are there? We are discussing in Sankhya or Yoga. I wonder many times how such great brainy people could think that there are several jivas, several purushas, that Prakriti is real, we are separate from Prakriti. These are called Ashuddha Jnanas. Now let me turn to Bhakti. Bhakti psychosis is different from Jnana. Feeling is the main thing in his art, makeup. Not that it does not have analysis, but that has become secondary. Feeling is main thing. And we may use the word instinctively or whatever. He feels there is a God. And he feels attracted to the God. He does not know the nature of God. But he says, Narada will tell us at one point. He does not have to prove God. He says God is self-evident because I love him. Swamiji has explained this very nicely. It's a common experience. I feel hungry. That itself ontologically proves three things. There is something called food. Otherwise, I would not have felt hungry. And that I can take that food in my stomach. That is another point psychologically from hunger we can understand. And the third point is that I have a mouth through which I can take that food. So Swamiji says, I am hungry proves these three things. I love God. So God exists. And I can realize God. And God has left several ways to realize Him. So Bhakta does not require any proof. He has a feeling. And he has, you may say, comparatively purity also. But this is impure bhakti many times, halfway bhakti, I would say. For him, the world also is real. He does not think of the world, whether it is real or unreal. He is attracted to God. So we call it bhakti. Suppose he realizes he is God. And then there is no world for him. And then God himself has become the world. So there is a Shuddha Bhakti. Ashuddha Bhakti tells him, I love God, but there are many things in the world which I love. I love eating mangoes, rasgullas, anything. I love to hear this. So, Bhakti is there, but it is Ashuddha Bhakti. Shuddha Bhakti, when he realizes God, he understands or realizes there is nothing in the world which is not a form of God. Not pantheistically, huh? Not that this is God, this is God. This is not there, God is there. So, now understand, Shuddha Bhakti and Shuddha Jnana reach the same place, but the set of mind is different. The psychology is different. The Western people say, not wrongly, that our mind is thinking, feeling, and will. Not wrongly, but partially, because our mind is many more things. Now, because I have used will, let me tell you, Shuddha Gyan can be called Advaita knowledge. Shuddha Bhakti will be called Advaita Bhakti. And what Swamiji has taught us, the karma, is Advaita karma. And the yoga proposed by Swamiji, not Patanjali. Will itself work is two ways. I shall do this, is a will. I shall not do this, also is a will. And this I shall not do, when it becomes Advaita, then that is real yoga. Kathopanishad at the end tells us, we have taught you Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. In Gita, we say Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. So yoga should not jump our mind into Patanjali, not necessary at all. All our scriptures have been telling yoga. And yoga is Tat Prapti Upaya. Kathopanishad especially has beautifully described yoga. Anyway, that is a different topic. So, Advaita Yoga, Advaita Karma, Advaita Bhakti, Advaita Jnana. Shuddha Bhakti, Shuddha Jnana is one Thakur used to say. Now, to receive this, Narada says, I told you, you have to keep aside your ideas of Bhakti. Now, I was telling you that how we came to this point, that before or during study of any spiritual scripture, we have to keep four things in mind. They should always be Jagruta in our mind. Then only we derive the real benefit of that scripture. Otherwise, scripture study becomes intellectual. Otherwise, scripture study only becomes an enjoyment for some time. Our hearing should not be by one ear and letting off by the other ear. Our hearing should not be by our buddhi. Our hearing should be by our heart, which is the instrument for experience. Now, what are the four things? The purpose. The purpose of life and our purpose of study should not be different from the purpose of life. And Narada's dealing with Bhakti Sutra also has no different purpose. In simple English, I would translate this as why we are studying. The prayojan. This must be clear in our mind always. Second point, there is no counting on this because they are mutually related. Who is studying? Generally, it is termed as adhikar. Now, let us not go into the philosophical discussion of adhikar. Adhikar is nothing outside. It is not a sannyasi has the right, grahastha has no right. It is not that a man has right and woman does not have right. Nonsensical ideas. It is not that Brahmins have a right and others do not have a right. No. Adhikar is the fitness of the mind. Who is studying this? For whom is this Shastra? Many people ask, is it for the common man? While studying Gita or Upanishad or Narad Bhakti Sutra, they will like, is it for a common man? My reply is, do you want to remain common? Then it is not for you. If a common man, I have not yet found a common man in my life. That is another funny thing I will tell you later. Let me tell you. After some lecture in Nagpur Ashram, the Shrotas told me, so nice, we liked it. But would the common man understand it? Another Shrota tells me he liked, but what the common man So I could not find a common man. In Tunaku, in Andhra Pradesh, there was a Vishal Andhra Sammelan, 8,000 devotees. And there I gave a talk. After that, some Swamis are telling me it was for us. Was it for a common man? I doubted. Then I asked some of the householder listeners. They said, we understood everything. We understood everything. So I have not yet found a common man in my life. Everybody is uncommon in his or her own way. Anyway, but if you are common, you think you are common and you want to remain common, there is no scripture for it. You want to remain what you are. Why are the scriptures? You are common, but you don't want to remain common. You want to become absolutely uncommon by realizing God. Then any scripture helps you. And for that, what you have to do? You have to change yourself. You cannot remain as you are. I tell you another funny anecdote like a disciple approaches his guru and says, you know, sir, how I am. Please accept me as I am. Some gurus will tell, okay, I accept you. You remain as you are. I will remain as me. You give me dakshina. I give you blessings. There are some other gurus who are very hard. They will say, no, change yourself. Purify yourself. Then come to me. But there is a third type of guru. He's okay. I accept you as you are. But remember, I am not going to allow you to remain as you are. Are you ready for change? Then come to me. So, Adhikari is one who is ready to change, and change according to your own ideas is no use. We are in Maya. Somebody who is beyond Maya. Narada is beyond Maya. We are ready to accept what he tells us. And we are ready to change ourselves as Narada will teach us. This is sadhaka. This is adhikari according to me. So for whom is this Narada Bhakti Shastras? For a sadhak who wants to become perfect. He wants to realize that blissful state, permanent blissful state. Who is ready to sacrifice everything for that? Who is ready to sacrifice? We are not to sacrifice some money. Sacrifice our ideas. Sacrifice our eye consciousness. Ready to change as directed by the Guru or Shastra. This is the adhikari. In English, I would say, for whom is this scripture? Who is going to benefit? For whom is this scripture? Or rather, what are we who are studying this scripture? People who are ready to change according to what Narada will teach us. Now, what is the subject matter? Subject matter is this Bhakti taught by Narada, which I already told you is derived from the very nature of God, is not derived from anybody's mind or buddhi. That is the subject matter. Narada is going to teach us in a way the way to God, Vedanta pure in the form of bhakti. I told you what is the form of bhakti, the feeling psychosis who loves God. Then, so in English, simple English, we say what we are going to study, we must know beforehand. People say how we can know beforehand? We must know the subject matter. Otherwise, we will start to search when we are studying Gita, economics in the Gita, management in the Gita. In Narada Bhakti Sutras, we will try to find what is Narada's philosophy. So we must know the subject matter is real bhakti leading us to God. Then the most important thing is sambandha. I am going beyond the time because we started late. I hope you continue for 2-3 minutes at least. That is the most important point. How we study Narad Bhakti Sutras to realize. Because people study to get a PhD, people study to write books, people study to be called a scholar, people study to explain it to others. I remember when my Guruji used to teach us Vedanta or Narad Bhakti Sutra or anything at Nagpur, used to hammer every day in the class. This is not for taking notes. This is not for writing a book. This is not for teaching others. This is for your spiritual upliftment that you are listening. So how to listen? I explained in my Bengali Gita class that day. As I told you, don't listen by your ears. Don't listen by your buddhi. Listen by your heart. I will give an example given by my Guruji. He said, Radha is standing, one of her friends is standing near. And at little distance or at no distance, somebody calls upon Krishna or not, we do not know, but he utters the word Shama. Radha is telling her friend, do you understand Bengali? I will speak Bengali and then come back to English. Radha telling friend, Sakhi, keba shunaino Shama naam, কানের ভিতরে দিয়া মরমে পশিনগো আকুল করিল মোর প্রাণ. My friend who has uttered the name of Sham, it has gone through my ears and touched my heart, my soul, and it has made me restless to realize, to see that Sham. After telling this incident, my Guruji used to tell me, this is Vedantic listening. With the eagerness to experience, I am listening. Or the listening is producing in me the eagerness to realize. Another way used to put this is, we study what? Rishi Vakyas. How we study? Is to say critically and devotionally. Critically means try to understand exactly what he wants me to change. At this point, why he is telling like that? Same shloka in the Gita, similar shloka may appear in 3rd, 4th, 5th chapter, and in the 18th chapter, the meaning becomes different. At this psychological point, that is the expression used by my Guruji. At this psychological point, why he is telling this, what he wants me to change. This is called critical understanding. And devotional means he is telling some ideal. Immediately let me compare with myself. I should never compare myself with anybody in the world, mind you. This is very bad. Nothing we can get. We can gain superiority complex, we can get inferiority complex, we can gain jealousy. Never, never, never. Let us compare always with God. No question of inferiority complex. We know we are comparing with God. No question of superiority complex. No question of jealousy. But comparing like this, my Guru used to say devotional means fill the gap and then try to fill up the gap. Fill the gap between the ideal setup in that scripture and our own life introspectively. Feel by heart and then try to fill up by sadhana. This is called devotional. So how to study scripture? In simple English, I would say how. Why we are studying, what we are studying, who is studying, and how we is studying. Adhikari Vishaya Sambandha Prayojan. Now, in next class, I will take up especially the Prayojan according to this very Narada Sutra. Because people will say you are subjectively putting the Prayojan. From these very Narada Sutras, what Narada is pointing out as our Prayojan, that I will take in my next class. Thank you for delay today. You are bearing with me, and those who can see here, let it go in your video. So, Jayati Om Jayati Jagati Mayam Yasya Kaya Dhavaste Vachana Rachanamekam Kevalam Chakalaya Dhruvapadamapi Yato Yatkrupato Dhruvoyam Sakala Kushala Patram Brahmaputram Natosmi Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.